2, and 1.
What's going on, fellow park enthusiasts? After a long hiatus, the Park Geeks are back.
Woohoo!
This is Justin.
Yeah.
I'm here. I am here with Kurt and Daniel. Hopefully, Raul will be able to join us later tonight. And we are redoing an episode that we had technical difficulties on. This is the Ghosts of Rides Past, where we're going to be talking about some of our favorite defunct rides that we wish we could do just one more time. And what can we do to make them better? Because it's not enough to just think of it like a remake. Some stories are worth retelling, but if you're going to retell a story, what are you going to add to it? How are you going to catch us off guard here? So, and I would assume it's the same thing for the rides. So let's go ahead and get started here. Now, Kurt is the experienced traveler here. So, Kurt, give us your the first ones for you.
Yeah, we'll kind of do these in reverse order, I guess. Going back, this actually goes back to our episode about underrated rides that we liked from the past, and these are rides that are gone that I thought were underrated. If you remember from that episode, I talked about a ride called the Catapult, which was an indoor scrambler ride at Busch Gardens, Williamsburg. That was just really fun. I really enjoyed that ride. It had lighting and special effects, and it was kind of like, it wasn't just a scrambler ride. It was a scrambler ride, but then through theatrical lighting and sound effects, the environment around you changed during the course of the ride. It was really kind of fun. So you started, as I mentioned, you started kind of like in the afternoon on a summer day, and there's like greenery. It had like murals on the wall of greenery and stuff, and the nice, pretty forest, and the birds are chirping. It's all happy. And then the ride starts, and the light starts to dim, and things start to change and start to become a little creepy as night falls into dusk, and then a storm comes through. And thunder and lightning, and you hear these crazy animal sounds and kind of ghostly stuff going on for a while the catapult is running at full speed at this point. And then eventually that all dies down, and the ride comes apart, and it's back, and the sun comes out, and it's all kind of nice day again. And it's just an enjoyable experience. It's a very simple thing to do on top of a scrambler. There just aren't enough of those around. There's only one left that I know of, indoor scrambler ride where they do some effects and stuff.
The one you took me to?
No, the one is up in Maine. I have to look up the name of the park. Funtown Splashtown, USA, up in Maine. It's the only one I left that has. But anyway, that's just one from the past. They were popular. There used to be several. It was kind of a fad for a little while. Other parks saw it. Oh yeah, we can put a scrambler ride in the building too and do some lighting effects and stuff. And there were several of them around. I rode four different versions of it around the country through that time. There's only one left now. But I would really like to ride the original Catapult at Busch Gardens again. Which kind of brings me to the next one on the list, because when that ride left, the Catapult was an opening day ride at Busch Gardens, which opened in 1975. And the Catapult closed sometime around 1985, thereabouts, and replaced it with a live show. And you heard me talk about this in the other episode of This is one of my guilty pleasures, was the Enchanted Laboratory of Nostramos the Magnificent at Busch Gardens, Williamsburg. Just a wonderful little live show. As I talked about on the site, it's not just me that has the guilty pleasure. There's actually fan sites dedicated to the show on the internet. That shows you how popular it was. It ran from 1986 to 2000. So it had like a 14-year run. It really shows you how popular it was. But there was one live actor. There were songs, and the actor would sing live. The music and the stuff was all pre-recorded, of course. But he sang live with it and performed it all. There were animatronic characters that talked, and the actor would interact with them like they were real. That was all pretty cool. And he did some pretty basic stage illusions, and they had some effects built into the stage. It's very, very fun to watch. Just kind of a very well thought out, enjoyable show. I even found some information online that said the budget for the show was $1.6 million.
Oh, okay.
To give you an idea how much the park put into this. That's a lot of this is 1986 dollars too. So the park the park literally took a gamble with this and put quite a lot of money in it. It really showed in the quality of the show. It was really fun. I mean, technically, I'm sure it would be cheesy today by today's standard. We saw more like if you've seen things like the Bourne Stunt Spectacular, it can't hold up to things like that. But it was a wonderful family, all ages show. You could literally bring the entire family, and everybody could have fun. I kind of missed that. Wish I could see it again.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it closed before cell phone cameras and camcorders were readily accessible, so there's almost no video of it. I have found a couple of really grainy, poor quality video clips online. Unfortunately, nothing really good that captures the spirit and the way the show was. Unfortunately, I wish somebody had. I wish the parks would have the foresight to document these rides before they shut them down.
Yeah,
I know
no
it's
kidding.
all budget and stuff, but it would have been so nice if they could just sent a camera crew in to document a performance or two. Just to have it for there. You could sell it, souvenir, DVD or something back in those days.
Yeah, that's because I remember that's what someone did for the Back to the Future ride. Someone just apparently snuck in there with a video camera to
Thank
record
goodness.
it. And, yeah, and I think they even got the Universal got the footage from him to put it on the box set, but you guys didn't even bother to update it, or at least for Blu-ray. I mean.
Okay.
But even then, at least we have it. At least it's there in existence. It's like how
I wish
not... Go ahead.
Yeah, I just wish the parks would do a better job of, preserving their legacy. It's I guess there's too much of the the corporate mentality. All this stuff is just kind of throwaway, and they don't want to. I understand there's budgets involved with everything. But there is a legacy aspect to consider, and there's ways to make money. I mean, Busch Gardens. I was just at Busch Gardens a couple of weeks ago on a trip, and they're selling old style souvenir T-shirts of some of the old defunct rides. So there's ways you can make money, off the nostalgia. And I bought it.
Of course.
I bought a jacket and I bought a T-shirt.
Okay.
But those are my first two. I've got more, so why don't one of you contribute a few before I go on?
Okay, Daniel, you go ahead and go.
Yeah, so I'll start with a couple. So I'm going to start with an obvious one, something that really made me wanted to, become an Imagineer one of these days for obviously change my career path. But that would be the Great Movie Ride. RIP at Hollywood Studios, but that was definitely the cornerstone attraction of that park, and this was something that I miss from that era. Just the integration of live actors and practical effects, mixing in with some good screen effects that really made the experience, feel way more genuine. Basically, it was inspirational. Like a lot of the classic Disney attractions did that for a lot of people, and that's how a lot of them went on to be part of the industry today. And if the cards would have fell a bit more and I had a portfolio, like I'd probably be working for one of these giants right now. But this attraction was just truly, it was great. It captured the spirit of what the park was trying to do. Just the movies. It had great scenes for kids and adults. Good appropriate humor. And just like the appeal of the Jungle Cruise, the live actor really makes or breaks the performance as well. And I'm just really sad that it's just gone now, replaced by a I'll just say
mini ride, which
it's mediocre. It's not bad, but it's like it just doesn't really capture the same spirit that the theater should hold, in my opinion.
Yeah, the thing about the Great Movie Ride, I think for that time frame, that was a really immersive experience. For that time frame, they did a really good job of bringing you into those sets of those movies, and kind of like they're always with that. At least when that park originally opened, they're always trying to blur that line between is it reality or is it a movie set? You're kind of some of the things I liked about those rides. You kind of drift back and forth on the ride or in the queue line. You see parts and you can see behind the sets in some places, and other places you're fully in the experience. I always thought that was kind of cool.
Oh, absolutely.
Not to mention, that was the first ride that I experienced where someone dies. For the story of the ride. Yeah, right. When they go grab that jewel, and then there's a puff of smoke, and it dies down. Your tour guide comes back, and you see the person who grabbed the jewel is now a skeleton.
Mm-hmm.
Like, whatever happened to that edge? Come on, people.
Yeah, that was dark. That freaked me out. Plus the xenomorphs and just a lot of great moments in that whole ride.
And the thing with the xenomorph too is that the head blended in so well with the pipes that surrounded it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they did a really good job with
good
that.
jump scares there. People freaked out all the time.
Yeah,
Even
yeah.
yeah, so there was a lot of great engineering, great design in that ride. Even when the earlier parts of that attraction did stop working because it was just too hard to maintain, it was still a good experience and it captured the golden era of Hollywood and some classics from back in the 70s and 80s that really helped define a generation. So yeah, I wish they kept it and just updated with more modern movies, I guess, while keeping some of the classics. But it's like, you know, we have to somehow sneak in a Mickey Mouse ride at some point. I just think you can do a better job with it. Um,
Hmm.
but oh well, that's just the way it goes for that attraction.
But
Um,
I like your suggestion though of putting if it was still here, you would update it by putting more modern movies in there. If you had to select some movies to replace to go in that ride, what would you would have chosen?
oh man, what to put in that ride is like fourth more modern because the most modern movie was what Indiana Jones, I guess. Um, oh,
I'm pretty sure Frozen would have to go in there because that was such a big hit for Disney.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. I'm just trying to
they
avoid
got
the
a whole
obvious
ride for that
answers.
though.
Yeah, plus not to mention, I mean, it's not it's an animated movie, so you can't really there's no set to walk in there.
I'd rather just keep the theme more live action, not
Don't
cartoony.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think if I were going to update something on that, probably the Wild West scene, because
Yeah.
that's not really based on a specific movie. It's just kind of a generic. Try to find an actual IP to put in there that would make sense. I'm not sure off the top of my head what that would be.
I'm pretty sure a Marvel movie would have to go,
Yeah.
or something from
Marvel's
the
easy.
MCU would have to go in there, because regardless of what people think of Disney right now, that build up with Marvel, the MCU, and the cinematic universe was a big hit for Disney.
Yeah, so it'd be definitely a Marvel movie in there. But not all those movies were Disney IP as well. So I just picked like some cornerstone movies from the more recent era. I'm just trying to think of some off the top of my head because just so many movies out there. I'm not sure if many come in the modern era as close as those movies were, but I have to get back with you on that one.
Yeah.
I
Well, if they didn't have Galaxy's Edge, I think there'd have to be a Star Wars area section for sure. I
oh
mean that you don't get movie IP bigger than that.
yeah
And good Star Wars movie. Just
Yeah.
saying.
Yeah, gotta be based on one of the first three, the original
absolutely
trilogy.
absolutely
And what? And how much you want to bet that if they were to do that, they would have given us something from the holiday special?
Oh, well, maybe if they do it as a joke. If they do it as a joke, it would work.
Because see, it's something from the original trilogy.
yeah I guess
I tell you, I
So-
remember. I told you this before, Justin. Just you brought it up really quickly. I watched that when it originally aired.
You poor bastard.
Yeah, exactly. I was sitting because they hyped it. Now it was Star Wars, and remember Empire Strikes Back hadn't come out yet. We were all waiting for it, so everybody wanted more Star Wars, and so we're sitting there. They got the TV on. We're ready to watch it, because you couldn't DVR anything back in those days. You had to watch everything live. And you're sitting there. We're watching it, and we go, "Huh?" And we go, "What the hell?" And I was sitting there with my mouth open for two. It's a 2-hour thing. I started going like, "Huh? What the hell is this?" I just wasted 2 hours of my life. I remember
Go ahead.
the critics say this is the Star Wars Holiday Special is widely considered to be the worst 2 hours of television ever produced.
yeah absolutely but I guess the movie that came to mind right now have they done anything with like Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, I guess, in any
Disney,
attraction?
no.
Because
That actually would be pretty interesting to see.
I would love
to
to
be
see
honest.
I love to see that like replace maybe like Wizard of Oz or like some other thing in there.
Wizard of Oz is awesome.
I mean, you get the same feel, you get your whimsical feel, but it's a little bit more modern than Wizard of Oz. But I know it's super
that is
iconic.
true. I mean, it is true. But remember, Wizard. I'm partial to Wizard of Oz. It is considered. It's on the very top of the list of the what's considered top 100 movies of all time.
Yeah.
It's very close to the top. I think it's in the top 10. If I've also looked at it, I've read some books on story structure and screenplay, just out of curiosity. I'm not going to be a filmmaker or anything like that, but I'm just kind of curious about the process.
Mission
And if you
Impossible.
go through the list, the story is structured so perfectly. They actually study this in some film schools about the
Yep.
story
Really?
structure of that movie because it comes together
And the book.
so well. And that's why it's endured for so long. But anyway, that's an aside. I don't want to see that one go.
Yeah, that's fine. Like maybe Mission Impossible, just because Tom Cruise has had such a great streak with
Oh yeah,
those effects. So I think that
yeah,
would
that'd
be
be cool.
really cool to incorporate. Maybe
Yeah,
Top Gun or something like that. Just something
Mm.
that really celebrates phenomenal moments in movie history. Maybe a rehash of like some Avatar scene, even though it's mainly CGI, but I'm sure they can kind of work it in. But there's a lot of options they could have picked for that if they want to update it. But
yeah.
anyway, kind of want to
So what would be your second pick?
my second pick. I'm gonna, go a little different from what I said last time. I'm gonna go way back during the 90s and 80s because I got experiences a couple times. Anyone here remember the Mystery Funhouse here in Orlando?
Actually, no.
Yeah, so
Mystery Funhouse.
the Mystery Funhouse. It was basically one of the first immersive fun houses and attractions here in the U.S. and it it was just so well made. I mean, even for it had no right to be that immersive for being an off the road attraction. So it had mini golf, had laser tag eventually, but the main attraction was it was just a family friendly haunted house you go through. You have like all these weird cool sets like some animatronics, some smoke mirrors and effects, a rotating tunnel that kids get stuck in all the time. So it just took a lot of these aspects that, especially done that early in the era. I kind of wish we see an expansion of that kind of return.
Yeah,
I
I'm
know.
looking this up right now, and I don't recognize this thing at all.
Yeah, I'm throwing a curveball at the chat. I'm sure some people will recognize it, but yeah, I had the privilege of doing that a couple times, and I had a blast each time. I definitely, even as a 5, 6 year old, things that were being too scary now, uh, it stuck in my head, and I would love to see more footage of it and like more of what it could be, and I miss it. So just something short and sweet. That should definitely come back. Um,
Yeah, there is. You said this was basically like a haunted house attraction.
yeah, family friendly haunted house, but it's based like dark fantasy, I guess.
Hmm. Oh,
Maybe.
do we have Raul?
Yes.
Raul,
Just in time.
there he is. Raul, we've missed you.
We have missed you. What's up, buddy?
Good to see you again, Raul.
We're just taking a trip down memory lane. So we just talked movie ride, and I brought up a very obscure attraction.
Yeah, have you ever heard something called the Mystery Fun House in Orlando?
Yeah,
Yeah, apparently Daniel's the only one here who remembers this thing.
I do. It's more popular than you think. It's more popular than you think.
I'll bet it is because, to be honest, fun houses, especially if this is what I'm thinking it is, can be fun. Hence the name.
Yeah.
I do know that there is a year-round haunted house attraction that Kurt and I went to just this past year, or was that last year?
You mean the haunted house we did
Yeah.
over in Kissimmee? That was this year. That was back in March.
Yeah, that's right. And it'd be nice to see those kinds of attractions again, especially when you're in a place like Old Town USA in Orlando. But I guess people have this. It has this stigma of just being tourist traps, but this wasn't a tourist trap.
That's what I thought. But it got a cult following, and it deserved it. I think some of those people that worked on the house went on to make other bigger houses around the U.S. So, hey, humble beginnings. They started with something fun and corny, and they moved on to better things. I will respect that every time.
Okay, so Raul, now that you've joined us, what are 2 defunct rides you wish you could do one last time? And if you could make them better, what would you do?
Horizon.
If you need a chance, if you need time to think, I can go.
Horizon and Epcot.
Horizon.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Good
I
choice.
never rode that ride.
Oh.
Where was that located?
Epcot.
Horizon is where Mission Space is.
Oh yeah, that's right. I remember
Yeah,
that
that
ride.
was classic. I miss that. That was actually on my list too.
I was on it a couple times too. I miss it. As a kid.
Let me
even.
look this up. Horizon.
There's a full HD experience that you can download in VR and like re-experience it if you want. It's really cool.
Oh, is there? Somebody actually did that. Yeah, I was going to comment that This one fortunately lived long enough that camcorders were out, and there's actually you can go on YouTube and find videos of the entire ride.
Yep. Original audio and everything, show scenes.
Yeah.
Even recorded movies that were the 3 movies at the very end.
Man, I don't think I have much recollection of this thing.
And then maybe the Batman and Robin dueling coaster that was in a Six Flags park.
Oh.
Which one?
Is that Six Flags Great Adventure?
Can't remember. It's one of them. It was a Batman and Robin. It was supposed to come out when that movie was coming out, and it was gonna be like a launch coaster that launched it reverse, but it had early issues and stuff. I just can't remember which park was supposed to have it.
Oh, it was New Jersey, right?
I think so.
Yeah, because they had that, and they had endless technical difficulties. They eventually ripped it out.
So what?
Yeah, I have. What did this ride do? Because I don't have much. I don't think I have any memory of this.
Which ride you talking about? Horizons?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's see how to describe it. It was kind of a slow moving ride. You got into these cars that brought you along a track and showed you various scenes about progress, sort of like Progress, kind of a different variation of the Carousel of Progress.
Oh, no kidding.
Different views of the future. They started looking at old Jules Verne vision of the future and kind of brought other ones, and then showed you some modern innovations. Kind of look forward to what things might look like in the near term future and various things. It was kind of an interesting. It was back when Epcot was kind of in the edutainment kind of mode.
But it was well done.
Was this the ride that claimed to shrink you down to not Body Wars, but that other slow moving ride that but you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
I think that Journey Through Inner Space or something. That was at Disneyland, I think. That shrunk you down. That was a really old one. I rode that back in the 60s.
Oh man.
Oh, that? Oh, jeez.
That's really old. Yeah. But yeah,
Okay.
Horizons was great. I had great fun on that. I like to do what I call the trilogy rides when I went to Epcot. My 3 favorites at the entrance was Spaceship Earth, Journey into Imagination, and Horizons. And if you go in the off season, you could do a loop. You could do all 3 of those in an hour. Right?
Really? Body Wars was on that list?
Not till the 90s.
No, Body Wars didn't exist back then. That's a relatively recent. That whole pavilion wasn't even there at this point. But you could do those 3 in an hour, and I would do all 3. And then sometimes, if I wasn't busy want to do something else, I'd do them again. So I would just keep doing that loop of rides. Because I love those 3 rides so much.
Okay, for me and my first 2, the first one I gotta give it to a classic, even though it was a nightmare when it first opened, Jaws. Because first of all, people are already scared of sharks, and you are you're stuck in the water. Even that ride breaks down, you can't just walk off of this thing.
Nope.
You would have to wait for someone to come and pick you up in a boat and then drive you back into ports.
Right.
So you already feel isolated, and then suddenly you hear on the boat you hear that the people in the boat in front of you had just died, and you actually hear audio of them screaming. So that's even more morbid. You turn the corner and you see that boat sinking down in. You see the rubble on the water, and then there's the shark fin. They had that nailed to a T. Although sometimes I think the skippers tend to overreact, or they spin that wheel too fast. It's they're spinning it 100 miles an hour, and yet we're slowly turning. You might want to work on that acting there a bit more, buddy.
Hey, so do the Jungle Cruise skippers. I mean, they have nothing else to do all day. Let them spin the wheel.
But the other thing too that I would do to actually make the ride better is that I would like to actually have the shark rock the boat.
Yes.
I would imagine that would make somebody just jump out of their seat, especially when you're in the boating garage, because he's bursting into through the wall. I can imagine he hits your boat and then he just pops out of the water. That would make anybody crap their pants.
Yeah.
Or how about going a step further? The shark hits your boat, and then it has a simulated leak. So like you have some little tubes on the floor of the ride that just start spraying water up at
Yes.
Oh,
you. The boat is leaking.
oh, I would have loved that.
Hey, Raul,
There
you want to say
was
something? Raul?
Yeah.
And just
No, yeah, you're totally right about that. It's very unique for being. You got to ride on the water. It adds an extra element because you can't go anywhere. You're swimming, right, at that point. Yeah, you're kind of you're really committed to the ride at this point because you're not going anywhere.
there
like,
was
like even
a
like the.
Go,
Go ahead,
Raul.
Raul.
there was an original version of that ride where the Jaws Bruce would actually bite your boat and spin you. The very first version.
Ooh, that'd be cool.
But it had so many technical issues when it first opened. If you look up the history of the park, that they actually sued the people who first made the ride, and they
yeah,
had to,
that's
and then
right.
remade it into the ride that most people know. I think that version of the ride where he spin you around and you actually blew up the shark like in the first movie. A lot of that, I think that was only there for the first maybe 2 years before they had to close it down and they basically remake the ride.
I wonder if there's footage out there.
Like there's some footage. I remember seeing some, theme park videos of the history of Jaws, and there were some early footage of that.
The other thing too that I would have liked, because I'm pretty sure this didn't bother me when I saw it as a kid, but when I got to ride it one more time as an adult, the very end where they shoot Jaws. First of all, I love it when the skipper goes, "Oh, that is disgusting!" when you see the charred corpse of the shark. But when he fires the gun at him, it like the shot comes from the side of him. Now I get that there's probably issues at the time, but I would think that now we could probably figure out how to make something pop out from the shark itself.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Because if you're on that first row right there seeing it, the illusion's destroyed. And the idea, of course, is immersive. You want to feel like, oh my god, that's actually him. And then when you see that the explosion happen right next to him, you look at the skipper and go, "You missed." so that'd be my first one. That's my first one, Jaws, and that's how I'd make it better. The second one is that alien extraterrestrial ride that used to be at Disney.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, the one that also scared the shit out of people.
I didn't go on that one. Yeah, my parents won't let me.
Yeah. Really? Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And I wish I could have done that one more time because the concept of horror to me as a kid, I didn't get. I wasn't really that aware of horror. The ride was definitely creepy. Don't get me wrong, but now as an adult who has indulged in the art of horror, I would have liked to have seen what was there at the time. Because from what I understand, there was like moments where the alien would drool through the ceiling, or supposedly you can feel like a tongue on the back of your neck, or
Yeah.
one.
It was getting a taste of human there. Yeah, and there was blood. There was supposed to be blood coming down from the ceiling because the alien kills another a technician up in the catwalk above you.
Yeah, and here's the other thing.
You hear the body being torn apart, and water comes down, but it's supposed to be the blood of the technician. It was pretty dark for Disney.
Yeah.
Again, that edge, Disney. What happened to you? But the other thing too that I found out is that there is a moment in the ride where you see like someone waving a flashlight through the ceiling, and turns out that actually was a real person. It wasn't some sort of like mechanical arm that did that. That was a real actor up there.
Yeah, you can see it was a real person.
So, and as for how would I make it better, I would like to see if there, like, what else could you do to freak out people? Like, perhaps maybe the alien could be walking through the aisles and you feel something brush across your legs, like his tail.
Heard it. They did the binaural audio, so you could hear the alien moving around behind you.
Mm-hmm. But I'm just more like, what else? Like, how can you touch like park guests to where they think like, oh my god, this thing is like right in front of me? The tongue, great effect. The blood, great effect. But now I'm wondering what else could you do? So I thought like maybe the tail.
Yeah, well, it had the things you mentioned, and it had the tickler that was supposed to be like its tongue going across the back of your neck. So it had the tickler, it had the hot breath, so it would breathe. You feel this hot breath on the back of your neck and the tongue. That was pretty cool. And then it was right behind you, and it would press down, so your harness would go down.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah, that was it was a pretty good combination of stuff. I mean, it'd be even more fun if it grabbed your leg or something. If there's some way they could do that, that'd be even cooler.
Well, my dad actually did that to one of my sisters on the dinosaur ride that's at Animal Kingdom. There was a moment where, yeah, I am not making this up. When that ride first opened, my dad takes me and my siblings to Disney. We get on this thing. There's a moment where the T-Rex pops out at you and takes a picture. My dad sticks his hand right behind him and grabs my younger sister's leg, like down by the ankle, and it scares the shit out of her.
Yeah.
That's not where the dinosaur is, though. The dinosaur is in front of you. It's not your ankle.
She's a child. She doesn't know any better.
That's right.
So yeah, that would be my second one. Kurt, you said though you had some others. So what are some other?
Yeah, I got a whole bunch. Let's go back to sort of like underappreciated rides that I was mentioning in the previous episode that I would love to ride again that are gone. And this is the wooden Wild Mouse rides were the next ones. So we talked about this when we did the Great America video recently because they have a modern Wild Mouse rides, and I talked about the old wooden ones, which were just awesome. They looked like the whole thing was going to fall apart and you're going to fly off the track at any moment. They were just so much fun. Unfortunately, we lost. The only two that I'm familiar with were in England that were left. One of them was Wild Mouse at Blackpool Pleasure Beach. That one sadly closed a few years ago. It closed in 2017. Opened in 1958, so it had a really long run. I rode it a whole bunch of times when I was at the park. Loved that ride. And there was another similar one at a nearby park in England. The park was called Southport. The ride there was called King Solomon's Mines, another wooden mouse. That one closed in the park closed rather abruptly in 2006, and we lost that ride at the same time. It's reopened under new management or new ownership. I'm not exactly sure how that works. But that ride and a bunch of other old rides are all kind of gone, which is kind of a shame. So I really miss the old wooden. I wish somebody would recreate those, build a modern version of a wooden Wild Mouse ride. I just would. They were just so much fun. You would not believe. They're just great rides. The other old ride, which this still exists, is I talked about this before, is the Derby Racer rides, which is like the carousel, merry-go-round for adults. I refer to it as a large, very large, much larger turntable than a carousel or a merry-go-round. And its claim to fame is it spins a lot faster. They don't run them. There's two left around. One is at Cedar Point. The other one is at Rye Playland. It still operates today. Unfortunately, they don't run them anywhere near as fast as they used to. There's also one at Blackpool Pleasure Beach in England. And what I really want, I want to ride one of those the way they used to run them back in the days. When I was a teenager at Rye Playland was my local park, and that thing went like a bat out of hell. And there was no restraints. There's no seatbelt. There's no restraints. And this thing is hauling ass.
So this sounds like something that should have been an action park.
This is like an action park kind of thing. And it was up to you to hold on to the damn thing while it's going and not fall off.
No idiot proofing here. If you're too weak, you're going to fly right off.
Yeah, it was really something. They told, I never saw anybody get hurt because the ride operators told you what to do as you're getting on because it spins counterclockwise. So you have to lean to your left. And to make you do that, they tell you have to put your left foot as far there's like several pegs on the side of the horse where you put your foot depending on how tall you are. And they say, okay, put your left foot all the way down as far, have your leg extended as far as it will go all the way down. And you put your right foot as high as you can comfortably, without, getting all scrunched up. And that gets you in the lean position. And you have to hard lean to the left to counter the centrifugal force. And you have to really hold on to that thing. But it was fun.
That's all that matters.
Yeah, because if you're not paying attention, you're falling off. And that was really something. I would so like to be able to ride that again. And of course, if you want to make it, for today, you'd have to add a restraint system, which wouldn't really bother me if you added a restraint system to it, if you could still run it at full speed the way they used to. But those were just
Mhm.
so much fun. I remember the one at Ride Playland. Instead of a height limit, they had an age limit. Right? You had to be as I recall, you had to be at least 14 years old to go on that ride. Because they wanted you to have, the park wanted you to have a necessary level of maturity to go on this and be old enough to take some responsibility for what you're doing. And they kind of figured out, well, 14 was probably good enough. You could get a learner's permit to drive your car at 16.
Right.
So if you're getting kind of close to being able to drive a vehicle, you're probably okay to ride a horse, a mechanical horse on an amusement park ride. But those were unique. I still would like to experience those. When I was at Cedar Point this past summer, rode the Derby Racer a whole bunch of times just because I love it, even though it doesn't go as fast as but I rode it like at least a dozen times when I was there. I just love these old rides. Let's see, that's all from my old rides. Let somebody else go. I do have some more modern rides I'll talk about in a bit, but let somebody else. Daniel, do you have some more stuff you want to talk about?
Some more stuff I want to talk about. Yeah, I sure do. So, I had the privilege of testing out this one attraction in Vegas. You probably know the one I'm talking about. The good old Star Trek experience. Both ends of it. Yes.
Really?
I went to Vegas when I was 2008, when I was about 18. So, not old enough to do all the gambling and stuff, but we did some of the family friendly stuff, and that was one attraction that was just phenomenal. And I kind of wish it translated that level of detail and love for Galaxy's Edge, but sadly it's not there. The Star Trek experience, like everything from the queue to the actors walking around, you can interact with your table servers, and on the ship, like you felt like you're really part of the crew, and
Yes.
they're the ones who did that effect that you currently see at Cosmic Rewind, and they did that years prior. So there's a lot of credit to go around to that attraction. And if you look at some videos of it, it was great. Like people freaking out.
That was a lot of fun. I actually did that a couple times when I was there. I bought one year. They were selling an all day pass.
Yeah,
you could do it. You could pay a flat fee. You can go through it as many times as you want.
I should have done that. I should have done that.
I don't know if they always offered that, but they were the one time when I was there, you could buy the all day pass.
It was like $25.
That was really fun.
But there's two ends of it.
Yeah, that was you're totally right about that. That was really that was a really immersive experience for that time frame.
Yeah,
the set, the details on the sets and everything going on was just phenomenal. And I this is a lot. The internet wasn't really doing much back then, so it was easy to avoid spoilers. So I didn't really know what to expect on it, which was good. That's the way you want to go into that experience, is not knowing what's going to happen. And that was just so. The first part of the ride, it begins and it totally takes a left turn and doesn't do what you think it's going to do right from the very beginning. It was just so awesome.
Yeah, and the sets and the actors and the Borg chasing you and the simulator portion, it was just all well done in a freaking hotel space. So
yeah,
that was
it was just amazing. I guess we can talk about. I mean, spoilers I guess don't matter because it's long defunct. But for those for Justin, if you guys don't know, you think they set up the whole thing like you're just going on a Star Tours style simulator. That's the premise of what this is. That's what you think you're going to do.
That's right.
Right, and then they queue you up. You're waiting in the boarding area. They line you up like you're going in the rows. They give you the safety spiel. Hey, when the door is open, proceed at all costs down to the end of the road to your seat and put your seatbelt on. All that stuff is happening, right?
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, everything interrupts. The video interrupts. There's like all these distortion and stuff going on. The lights go out, and you hear the sound effect of the transporter, right? And it's now
that was amazing.
It's like the room goes pitch black, and you see these little twinkling lights around you, while the transporter sound effect, and all of a sudden the lights come on, and you're in a totally different location. You're on the transporter pad of the Enterprise.
Oh wow!
Yep, it's done so well.
You're in the standard queue line like you're getting on Star Tours. The lights go out, and now you're in a totally different location. All of a sudden, it was just so much fun. And the transporter technician is there, and they tell you what to do, and they start to give you a spiel about give you the first little cookie about what's really going on. Then you have to go down the hallway, and they want to talk to you on the bridge, and you go to the bridge. It's the actual full bridge, recreation of the bridge from Star Trek Next Generation. Every detail is like there, and there's crew there working. doing stuff, and you're kind of there with them, and it's like totally awesome.
They'll interact with you, and they're just super cool about it. Everything about that. But Earl, you had something?
No, no.
Oh, yeah. So
that was just, and that's just part. And then you have this thing on the bridge, which gives you the plot exposition about what's going on. And Commander Riker comes on the viewport, with his Jonathan Frakes, and he does his role, gives you the spiel about what's really happening and how you're here to save the day and all this stuff, and why they had to do the time work and come back in time to get you and all this.
Yes.
Justified the whole thing. They had the whole thing justified for what it is, and then you have to go on a mission on a shuttlecraft, and they take you down the turbolift. You get to ride an actual turbolift. It actually feels like it's moving. And there's a crew member comes with you and gives you more information. Then you finally board an actual shuttlecraft and you go on a mission, and it was just a wonderful experience.
It was
so much fun.
Look at the video after the stream. I think you'll be impressed. So one more thing about that. It was great for families because it wasn't expensive to basically have a 40-minute experience, 45 minute. And for that, you get way more than you do at, what I hear from the Galactic Star Cruiser, which is like a $5,000 experience. So even with inflation accounted for, it's insane how immersive theater was better back then. And I've been to local events that done that concept even better. I could probably design it, like if I had a team, and do a way better job than what Disney has doing with all their inflated budget. But anyway, I'm not going to get much into that. Second attraction I want to bring up real quick. Again, out-of-state stuff, wonderful stuff. I actually rode the Son of Beast in Kings Island before that went defunct. Yeah. So I rode Beast and Son.
Like?
It was really good. I know that later on it got really rickety and had like a lot of rumbles, very uncomfortable for riders. But when I went, it was actually very smooth, and the thrill of just going in a loop on a wooden roller coaster was incredible. I think the wait times weren't that big. It was a good length. It was a good counterpart to the Beast, which is another amazing coaster at that park. So that certainly reinvigorated my love for wooden roller coasters, just riding that and bringing it back home to the couple we have here, like White Bush Gardens. But an amazing experience.
It certainly had an unusual height to it. They never quite got all the bugs out of that one for sure.
No.
Which is why it was eventually torn down. But the idea that you could be on a wood coaster with a loop in it, kind of, because it has trains that can transition from the wood track to the steel track, because the loop was steel.
Yeah.
Was a standard steel coaster loop, and the trains could transition between the two track types at speed. It got pretty rough. The times I rode it on a couple different visits, it was always rough. They did do some work to try to get it more acceptable. Some people really hated it. I didn't really hate it. Didn't really love it either. But I got to the point where it was rideable. I could ride it and have some fun and just kind of enjoy the novelty of it. It certainly was it was impressive looking structure.
Oh yeah.
Just the top of the lift hill was really something.
But those are my remaining picks. Just a mixture of, what have we talked about? But I think it's Raul's turn if he wants to add more.
Yeah, there's another Raul that you want to talk about?
Another attraction that I didn't get to ride?
Yeah,
No.
it doesn't have to be a ride. It could be like a show, perhaps.
Any experience that you miss that's now defunct.
Ooh.
Like, did you get a chance to experience T2 3D?
Yes. I'm trying to think. It's very hard. I would have to maybe pick between two.
Okay.
Beetlejuice from Universal
Mm-hmm.
and Tarzan Rocks from Animal Kingdom.
Oh, yeah, I remember that show.
Yeah, it was a pretty good show.
I don't recall that one.
It was very short-lived. Go ahead.
Yeah, it was in the theater where the Finding Nemo show is now.
Well, what happened in the show?
They told the story of Tarzan. You had live singers singing the music. You had Tarzan and Jane. You had a fur character, Turk. And you also had skating monkeys and stunts and all that fun jazz.
Yeah, it was a live show. The unique thing is they had a live band. They had a live rock band performing the music. Nothing was. The only thing pre-recorded was Turk's lines.
Were
That makes
there
sense.
people swinging from vines in the show?
There were some performers that were on. They're kind of vaguely dressed as monkeys, not really strict. Just to give you the idea, but they were in most of them were wearing rollerblades, so it was like a rollerblade stunt show thing thrown in there as well. So they performed, the major songs from the movie, and you had the stunt performers doing these tricks on rollerblades and stuff. There's ramps and stuff down on the stage, and they're doing the usual flips and stuff. It was actually kind of fun to watch. And some of them were swinging on vines, and then they were singing, doing the songs, and a fun show. It was a live band. The best thing I always liked about it was a live band. You don't see live bands at these shows very often.
Nope, all pre-recorded.
Yeah.
Yep. Man, I didn't know that existed because I always knew it as the Finding Nemo Theater. I didn't realize
Well, it didn't used to be enclosed either. That used to be an outdoor theater.
I can see why they use rollerblades though, because if you remember watching the movie, it looks like Tarzan's like surfing on tree branches.
Yep.
And his legs are moving the same way how a rollerblader would move. So I get why they did that. For me, if I had to pick 2 remaining ones, the first one, the 8th Voyage of Sinbad at Islands of Adventure, just because I feel like there was that one accident that happened and it just never came back. Like, why do you have to cancel the whole show because of that one incident? I mean, you have it sitting there collecting dust. And sometimes they'll use it to put people who are in line at, whoa, that's the show? Yeah, Raul just sent me what the Tarzan thing looked like. That is a pretty sweet setup.
Yeah.
I'm sending you one more.
Yeah.
Okay, that looks awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, Nemo was just a bunch of puppets. This is a full-on production.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
But with the 8th Voyage of Sinbad, like I only did that like maybe 1 or 2 times, and it's a stunt show. Those are always cool to see. I would have loved to relive it and see if it's if it still deserves to still be around. Kurt, what did you think of that show?
It was okay. I wasn't a huge fan of it.
Yeah.
I did make an effort to go see it after they announced it was closing. Fortunately, that corresponded to I think it's the last trip I had before the pandemic to Orlando. I got in like a month before that show shut down. Saw it a couple times just to kind of, fix it in my memory. It was enjoyable. The jokes were corny, of course.
Yes,
it was
they
kind
were.
of meant to be. But yeah, it's kind of a shame that theater just sits there. I thought they were going to redevelop it into something else, but it's just sitting there now.
Mm-hmm. I mean, not to mention Poseidon's Fury isn't much better. They said they reopened that, but I haven't seen anybody go in there and talk about it.
I
know
it's pretty much the same show.
Yeah.
They haven't updated any of the graphics or anything. It's just they fixed the building.
Yeah, I did it when I was there in March. It was the same show as always, so which was not bad. I mean, I do kind of enjoy it. I think it's kind of fun to get you're out of the heat for half an hour at least.
Yeah, but you're standing the whole time, so if you're tired, then it's not fun.
True. Yeah, the standing room only thing is a little hard on the feet.
Yep.
And for my other one, I'd have to go either Questor or Akbar's Adventure Tours from Busch Gardens.
Oh yeah,
Oh,
Akbar's
man.
was cool. I love that.
It was so weird.
Yeah.
And not to mention actually having A-list like stars in the movie for that thing, like Eugene Levy and Martin Short. It's like, wait, what are these guys doing here?
Yeah, but I thought that was inspired. A simulator ride that makes fun of how cheesy simulator rides are.
It was meta before its time.
Yeah. I did like that. I did enjoy that.
And the other thing too is that I remember when it was first Questor, my mom loves simulator rides, and I remember going on that ride, and we're traversing like all the caverns, and I remember thinking like, wait, how big is this ship? Because these are like pretty small, packed in places. How are we fitting through all this?
Yeah.
And then it gets turned into Akbar's, and there's always that one moment where there's like a skeleton pops out from the roof.
Yeah.
Like that was cool to see. I don't think I haven't seen any other simulators do something like that. I think nowadays it's all just 3D, which cool effect, don't get me wrong. but practicality still has a following for a reason.
Yeah.
You're not
Yeah, that
wrong.
was fun. That was definitely
Yeah.
fun.
And, plus, not to mention too, at the end of Akbar's Adventure Tours, they have bloopers. They actually have bloopers from the ride movie being played, which again, like that is just so much fun. You can never go wrong with outtakes, and
Yeah.
and just seeing outtakes for a theme park ride, like, okay, that's different. I mean, granted, outtakes are the same regardless, but again, you never really saw that for a theme park ride.
Mm-hmm.
And God, I wish I could do it just one more time.
They
Yeah.
I don't care if it's culturally insensitive. They're actors. That's what they're supposed to do.
It's clearly a parody. Just let people laugh and have a good time and just make fun of, commonly things. I mean, the Simpsons can do it in their attraction. Why not, like, just other celebrities just because they're not cartoons? But whatevs. That
Yeah.
I wrote it a couple times. It was the
think
weirdest
the
simulator ride of my
issue
life.
was more that he was, painted a different ethnicity that he wasn't.
Oh,
That was.
Maybe, but even then, like, there's movies that have done that were way more tasteful than people would give them credit for. But at the same time, you have to remember this is an American production. It's like when what was it called? Uh, I think it was called Ghost. The movie Ghost in the Shell, which was an anime. A lot of people were saying, well, how come they didn't get an actual Japanese actress to play the main character? And yet, when they asked people of Japan what they thought of the trailer, they noticed that it was an American woman, and they didn't care. The people of Japan did not care that someone who was not Japanese was playing a Japanese character because they understood this was an American movie.
But there's a
Okay.
difference between, let's say, making an American movie and because with this Scarlett Johansson movie, you can argue that she is a robot. So you can technically have her any ethnicity, and
Right.
that's not necessarily the big deal. That's why, for example, a lot of people were kind of confused with Alita because Alita had the big anime eyes.
Oh, I
But,
noticed that.
but after watching the movie, it kind of fits the world and everything like that. And after a while, you don't even notice it. I feel like with Akbar it's a little bit different, but I get what you're saying. But at least, for example, with Scarlett Johansson, they didn't try to make her eyes look, she didn't try to make, what was it, Breakfast at Tiffany, like Mr.
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
Miyagi, I think is.
Yeah, no, he's talking about that Asian character that was played by a white dude. Mickey Rooney, was that it?
Yeah, that was, I think, the actor's name. Hold up. Mickey Rooney in Breakfast at Tiffany. Mr.
Or were you thinking,
Yonioshi.
or were you thinking the Breakfast Club?
No, okay. Sending the photo now.
Photo.
Yeah, I think that's Kurt, does that look familiar to you?
I don't think I've seen that. No.
It's from Breakfast at Tiffany's.
Yeah, I don't think I've actually seen that one.
Yeah, I don't think I have either, but that's not a real Asian man. That's actually a white guy. But from what I understand, though, people thought his performance was funny. I still think people need to relax because I don't think because when you look at stuff like this or Akbar's Adventure Tours, you can see the intent. They're not trying to be mean. They're trying to be funny. They're not making fun of them for being a particular race. They are just doing a joke.
They're playing the stereotypes. Whether you find that offensive or not, that's just what people decide. But I find it more for the humor than just mean-spiritedness. If you want mean-spiritedness, I mean, I can point to the Peter Pan, the latest Chip and Dale movie, but that's, again, I'm not gonna get much in that topic. Akbar, yeah, I'm with you. I think Akbar did his job, and but nowadays it would be very dated. I don't think it would be. It has its place if it would be brought back, honestly, and I'm fairly sure I wouldn't enjoy it as much as I did back then as a kid. But yeah, I would prefer going to see Questor, just not Akbar.
I never really.
All right.
Questor never did much for me. I always thought that one was kind of dull.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know. Star
Okay,
Tours was just so.
all right. To wrap things up here, anybody got any final thoughts on one last thing you want to say?
Well, we haven't talked about, we got to talk about roller coasters a bit more,
Okay.
right? There's two that are gone that I would like to bring back. One is
Okay.
the Big Bad Wolf at Busch Gardens. That was at Busch Gardens, Williamsburg. That was an Arrow suspended coaster. It's of the Arrow suspended coasters that were made. I think this was the best of all of them, and very sad that it closed. So I had to buy. Actually, I was at Busch Gardens just a couple of months ago. Actually, just a month ago, and had to buy. They brought back some Big Bad Wolf merchandise. So I had to buy some.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that was a really good roller coaster. They saved one of the unique things. It saved the big drop for the end. The end of the ride was the finale. So you went up a second lift to the top of this hill. They took it. Also, the Busch Gardens is located on a hilly terrain. So there's a natural hill there. And it takes you up to the top of the hill, and you fly down the hill alongside the hill, and it goes out over the water. There's a little bit of a man-made lake they created there. So you swoop down over the water, make a turn, you zoom back up the other side of the hill on the other side. Just the whole finale of the ride was just awesome. It's a fantastic roller coaster. Really missed that one.
Hip is kind of sharing
That's
some
interesting.
screen.
There's a tremor in the
something
right now.
Yeah. Are you trying to show us something?
Yeah, I was just showing you a bit of the coaster. Yeah, little front row view. Yeah, but I like how it blends in with the natural environment, natural foliage. I think that's a neat touch.
Mm-hmm.
Another lift hill.
I will admit that does look a lot of fun.
Oh, there's a drop. Yeah.
Going over the water. Very nice.
Yeah, it really hauled through there.
I can just feel the G's already. Very nice. Anything else?
Yeah, that was called the Big Bad Wolf.
Well, the other one I have to bring up, of course, is Dueling Dragons. Really missed that one. Yeah. How can I not mention that one, right?
We all
I really missed that. That was, I think, one of their masterpieces for roller coasters. Now, it's not only two good roller coasters together, and all the near impacts and stuff that they had. That was just fantastic ride.
Absolutely,
really missed that one.
Supposedly they'll be making one for Epic Universe, but only time will tell.
Supposedly they still are Mac Coaster or Intamin is working on them.
Yeah, I don't
crossing fingers. Come on, Universal! This is your decade. Make it count.
Yeah, Epic. Yeah, the Epic decade.
Yeah, Disney has been dropping the ball badly.
They're not responding to Epic Universe. There's D23 coming up, and people are not projecting they're going to announce anything major. There's like, we're good. People are going to still come to the parks, right? No.
Yeah.
Well, they will, but
the issue is that, and this is me coming from both sides. Both Universal understands they need to keep adding things, improving. That's what they are doing in their parks. With Disney, they have been, improving some things and changing some things, and they have been adding something, but they need to add more. Whether you don't have to build a new theme park, but you need to add new attractions, close older attractions. Don't be afraid to push the boundaries, because that's what Walt Disney was. He always pushed the boundaries. Upgrade Tomorrowland, do more up and make new attractions to increase capacity. Do something big to keep up with the competition. Like something that someone told me that Toy Story Land was like a cheap addition in a sense to add a land. Because if you look at the other Toy Story lands, it's like they're cheap flat rides. This one is the most, you can say, creative in a way, kind of Toy Story Land. But then Galaxy Edge, a lot of the elements that were supposed to be there when they announced it went to the Star Cruiser that you have to pay $5,000 to experience, from the droids, the interactivity, and now they're adding the bounty hunting thing with this magic dance and other things like that. The thing is, Disney can do it, but they are basically gonna do what they did with the Wizarding World. They're gonna be like, oh, it's nothing, and then what happened with the Wizarding World? Increase attendance for Universal, and then look at where they are kind of now. And Disney, what did it do? Pandora, Toy Story, Galaxy Edge, it tried to respond with the success of Wizarding World, but then never got to that point. Even
Nope.
their Avengers campuses are very fair. I don't know if you guys seen the video for their Avengers Flight Force, the roller coaster in Paris.
I saw that video where Spider-Man missed the mark.
It's a reskin of right.
The roller coaster is basically their version of what used to be the version of Rocket Roller Coaster that saw in Hollywood Studios.
Mm-hmm.
When I tell you this ride is an embarrassment, because all they did literally was it's all black. You only have one or two projections where you see a Iron Man and Captain Marvel, and barely even that. There's nothing to that ride. It's pretty much is riding pitch darkness. Even Cosmic Rewind has more elements to that. I can say that's a better ride. That ride, it's just boring. The queue itself is boring. There's one cool animatronic. What else?
Yeah, this is the definition of lazy. Do the bare minimum. Hope the IP is enough to bring people in, and that's it. Otherwise, why do anything beyond it? And I've seen the video before. There's similar tech to Cosmic Rewind, but it's just done so much worse. It's done so much worse.
Yeah, it'd be a while to write that, I guess.
Yeah, but anyway, any more thoughts before we end?
Yeah, I got I'll do two more.
Mm-hmm.
We already mentioned the T2 3D, so we won't dwell on it. We talked about that a bit when we did our Orlando video, so I won't dwell on it, but I would. That is on my list of things I wish I still experience. I did really like that. As I said in our video, that attraction was a total A+.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I think that was, as I said, that was about as perfect as an attraction of that type could be, I think. There's just really nothing you could do to make that better. I mean, obviously, the technology changes a bit, and you can improve some of the effects, obviously. You could replace the film projection for the 3D with, an 8K digital projector, and that could all be better. But as far as what it was in the story, I think it just was perfect. And I wish I could experience that world a bit more.
Agreed.
But the friend of yours, college roommate.
Yeah.
Yeah, he is my college roommate. Yeah, at least you can find copies of that video online, so you can still enjoy it from that point of view. But I think you can probably guess what the last one I'm going to bring up is, right?
Is it
the
with
T-shirt
this guy?
I'm wearing?
Yeah.
Journey into Imagination. The original Journey into Imagination. That was such a travesty when that ride was taken out and changed. So for those who don't know, the original version opened not long after Epcot opened. It opened in 1983, ran to 1998. Just a really wonderful ride. As I heard Tony Baxter talk about, he was the lead Imagineer on that one. And most people feel, he said it was like probably the most beautiful ride in Epcot at that time, and I think that's true.
Yeah.
It was just an absolutely fantastic ride. Wonderful ride system. The back in the early 80s, that ride system where it hooks the trains onto a moving carousel while everything is moving in motion. And you got multiple instances of the show occurring at the same time for different trains. And it was just amazing piece of technology that they actually got to work, in the early 1980s. And you think of it, it was actually, the technology had to be earlier. Because for that to open in 1983, they had to have been working on the software and the prototype and everything before then, probably in the late 70s, to get that ready and running. And that's really impressive for that time frame, to have the control system that can handle all that. So the first time I rode that just blew me away, because I didn't know what was going to happen. There was no internet back in those days. You couldn't know anything. You just got on the ride and said, okay, let's see what happens here. And you board this train that's creeping along slowly, and then it accelerates at just the right time to hook onto this moving carousel. And I don't know if you've seen fortunately there's videos. You can actually watch videos of this. Martin's videos, and there's a few others that have captured some excellent footage of it. But as you watch the trains that are hooking into the carousel portion of it, the train clears just before the partition wall comes around. It's really just a few feet of clearance that the train has to get through the opening, before the partition between the show areas comes around. It was just so impressive that I could do that every time and not have any collisions or anything. It was just totally amazing. And you can look, I rode the front car a couple times. You can look down at the track and you can see this horde of sensors everywhere because they had to know exactly where the train was and where it was moving relative to everything else. There were just sensors all over the place in the track to keep track of where everything was so they could coordinate everything. It was a really impressive ride for the time frame. Really enjoyable. Wonderful song, Sherman Brothers song for the main theme.
Mhm.
It was just great. Can't really say enough about that one. Closing it, and they turned it into a ride without Figment. That was just pure travesty. And that one, for those of you who know, that it was a place with journey into your imagination.
Right.
Without Figment and Dreamfinder, and that ran 1999 to 2001. So they were there for 2 years. You can tell how much that ride was very much for being so short-lived. And then they revamped it again into the present version.
And you can tell Figment still has a popular fan base because of the popcorn bucket incident.
Oh yeah. Well, as I mentioned before, I think on the stream, Figment is the most popular Disney character ever that was created specifically for a ride. So
That's
unlike
true.
Mickey Mouse, which was created for shorts and theatrical, other characters that were created specifically for film or television, Figment was created specifically for a ride. And so for that class of characters, which would also include things like the Country Bears, for example, the character created specifically for a ride. Figment is the most popular, and you can tell by, again, the popcorn bucket thing shows you how popular that character is.
Yep.
And I really miss that ride. I so wish I could ride that again and experience that. It's just a wonderfully fantastic ride. Now, if I'm talking about ways you can make it better, it would be dated today, of course.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing that I think Disney missed on that is you could have kept the ride and added guest interaction, right? So look at things like Toy Story Midway Mania. You've got your shooting game basically.
Yeah.
Well, you could have add light guns to the cars, but instead of making them guns, you're not really want to shoot a magic paintbrush, and you could point your magic paintbrush at things that would then trigger stuff happening on the set. So you could literally interact with what was going on in the sets. And then you can make it even better because you've got magic bands. So imagine you scan your magic band as you're going in, like you do on Test Track, right? And it can remember what you did on previous rides. And it could be like, the more you ride it, you level up and you get to unlock more things. And it could remember what you did. So if you go through the same area and you point your magic paintbrush at something different happens. Or maybe it's like a cumulative thing. You can build something, right? You can have screens, and you can be putting things together and assembling things based on the theme of that particular section, the imagination thing going on. So there's all sorts of fun things you could do rideable,
Absolutely.
right? You could have it so many variations, just by remembering what you did in the past, and all that's trivial to do with today's technology. And I think that's probably the single biggest loss to Epcot is that ride.
Yeah, from what I can
Sounds
tell,
like it,
I
man.
wish I remembered riding it. I don't know if I ever did. The earliest attraction I know is just Horizons. So
Yeah,
it's a shame.
yeah. Like I said, I rode that every time I was in Epcot. I did the loop. I did the trilogy. You did Spaceship Earth on the way in. Then I would either go to Horizons or Journey to Imagination, depending which one I thought had the shorter line. And I went to the other one, and I just kind of went in a circle between those three and kept. Somebody would do it multiple times. Those are the days.
Classic
Yeah.
Epcot. May you rest in peace.
Mhm.
Yeah, I don't know what Epcot's turning into now. It's not what it was.
A mess.
Which it's kind of sad. I don't know if it can be what it was anymore, because I think modern audiences don't really want the edutainment thing anymore. That probably doesn't work. It works for me. I enjoyed it thoroughly. When Epcot was Epcot. It's really difficult for me to see what it's morphing into now. I don't know if I'm going to like that park anymore.
Mhm.
I know times have to change, but I don't know. There has to be a better way to adapt. And I think, particularly Journey Imagination, could be a very relevant ride, just with updating. You can keep the ride system, just update, the technology and the scenes that you see, instead of just being, you were just a passive viewer, throughout after you met Dreamfinder and Figment and the rest of the ride. You're just sort of a passive viewer, and the way to fix that is to make it interactive.
Oh yeah.
I think Disney just totally missed it there. like, for what that ride could just be so much more, and you could keep updating it too.
Mm-hmm. And this is when my cat likes to ruin the shot.
That's fine. He's our honorary guest today.
Oh, she would not last for 1 second, even on the slowest of rides. All right, our time here has come to an end, but tune in back again in 2 weeks where we are going to talk about one of my guilty pleasures, the Fast and the Furious Supercharged. What went wrong? Is it worth fixing? And should it even be fixed?
That's a hot debate, my friend, but I'll be prepared for it for sure.
Oh, God, yeah. Get ready because the guns are coming out for this one. Take care, everyone. Good night.